Hi everyone, this is like my fourth try. But you know, sometimes it's just like that. Sometimes I get going and then I realize what I really want to talk about. Seize the day, right? We all know this. Carpe diem, seize the day. The trick is to seize the morning. If you can take control of the morning, if you win the morning, you win the day. I don't remember who said that. But I was researching how to plan your week, how to plan your day, and really thought about how, as a home worker, as I work at home, no one ever taught me how to do this. I used to have a Franklin planner, but when I used that a lot, I was actually working in corporate America, so it wasn't like I had meetings. It wasn't even like I had outcomes. I was a drone. Now I'm running my own businesses. I have a lot of work to do. I have to be efficient with my time, and I still have time to provide for clients, but I have to be very efficient with the way that I work. So I was thinking about a couple of weeks ago about how to plan your day, how to really take control of your day and plan it. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but if you have a plan and you work your plan, even if things come up and you have to change your plan, you're infinitely better off than if you have no plan at all. So I was reading a book called Deep Work by, I'm saying by, and now I don't remember by whom. Hang on, I'll tell you. Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World by Cal Newport. He was a doctoral candidate at MIT, I think, or Harvard, an Ivy League university. And I can't remember if it was MIT or Harvard or Yale, but it was one of those three. And I don't remember because it wasn't really important for me to remember. But he had a growing family. He was working on his doctorate. He needed to publish because in the academic world it's publish or perish. And he needed to publish so many, like 4 papers a term. Now I say 4 papers a term like it's just nothing. But his papers are not like the papers that I do for college. They had to be supported and defended, and they were research supported to show his research. So to do 4 papers in a term is extremely ambitious. And he talks about how he would block out his time so that he would have blocks of uninterrupted time. And he would kind of laugh and say, you know, his office mates, you know, professors have office hours when you're kind of allowed to go in and request their attention. They have specific office hours. And he would work outside of office hours. He would be in his office, and his colleagues would be like, oh, come on, Cal, we know you're there. We see you. But I want this to be public. He would, you know, insist that there were times when, although he was in the office and people could see him, he wasn't available. And as a result, he was actually able to publish 9 papers over the course of a school year, of an academic year, which is, you know, that's unbelievable output. And he talks about time blocking. And he also talks about the difference between deep work and shallow work. Now, we all have shallow work that we need to do. I do too. I have to answer emails. I have to take phone calls. I had one of my streams today interrupted because I had to take a phone call, which is fine. You know, I'm not upset about it at all. I wanted to take that call. People need our attention. We need to do training. We need to do things that are just interacting with other people. And that's kind of considered shallow work. It doesn't take a lot of thought to do it. And then there are times that I need to do deeper work. This is more than just doing the data entry that I do. It is really digging in and finding out, doing an audit, for example, would be deep work. In his case, since he was writing papers, the time he was spent writing papers was his deep work. He found that you can only do that about 4 hours a day, and then your brain kind of goes to mush. So you need a blend of deep work and shallow work, and you just need a couple of hours here, maybe a couple of hours at the beginning of the day and a couple of hours right after lunch would be ideal times for deep work. You're more alert first thing in the morning. That's why a lot of people, there are tons of searches on how to be a morning person, because you're most alert. Even though, for me, I have a terrible time getting up in the morning. I have a terrible time. I can wake up, and then if I don't have a lot to do, I tend to want to go back to bed. So I have to kind of wake up and get out in the sunshine. I am going to talk about how to become a morning person. But, in the morning is when we are at our most alert, when the creative juices are just flowing. There have been studies that show that we have only so much willpower to manage us through the day. And I have tried to explain to people, I've heard the spoon analogy. Let's say you start out the day with 20 spoons. It's got to get you through the, well, let's say 10 spoons. And that is how much energy you have to make it through the day. I'm hypothyroid. My thyroid doesn't produce as much thyroid hormone as it's supposed to. So I tend to get tired easily. And so, and I have friends that have lupus, and I have friends that have fibromyalgia. I have friends with fatigue disorder, where they're constantly tired. Chronic fatigue, that's what I'm looking for. And so when you have these invisible diseases, people don't realize that by the end of the day, when you say you're done, you're really done. And it's kind of the same thing with willpower for everybody. I get 10 spoons. That's all the energy and all the willpower I have, and it takes me 2 just to get dressed. And so that's kind of the analogy I've heard. It takes me 1 to get dressed. It takes me 1 to get out of bed, and then I have to work out, and then I have to work all day. And well, there's the breakfast. There's the first half of the day and the second half of the day, and here it is the end of the day. And sometimes you're just out of spoons. You're kind of out of juice, out of energy. You need to recharge your batteries. So first thing in the morning is when most people are at their most alert. That's what we're kind of biologically designed for. And that's when the best possible time to do creative work. However, if you're doing creative work, if you are interrupted in mid-task, it takes you at least 25 minutes to get back on task. This is why, by the way, I really don't like to be interrupted when I'm in flow. There's times when I don't mind, and I understand that people don't know, So I like to get a lot of work done either before office hours or after office hours, because during the day I expect people to be reaching out to me and calling me. But we talk a lot about multitasking in today's world, and did you know it's actually not possible? You need to focus on one thing at a time, and I'm finding that the older that I get, the more difficult it is for me to multitask. And it's easy to want to try when, I've got 2 big computer screens here and I've got so much to do, and my sister calls me and I want to talk to her and I want to chit chat, but I also feel like I need to get work done. And she picks up pretty quick that I'm trying to work, because I actually can't listen to her and focus on what I'm doing. Although I can pretend, but then I would go back and say, I don't remember what we talked about. So it's important to understand that that's the way it is, that when you're in flow and when you're working on something and you get interrupted, it's going to take time, about 25 minutes to get back where you were. That's not to say all interruptions are bad, not even to say most interruptions are bad, but you may want to manage them. If you know you have a creative project coming up, you may want to turn off your phone for the morning and return phone calls in the afternoon. If you are reaching out to somebody and don't get through to them, kind of remember, I know I have a really bad habit of not leaving voicemail, especially with friends and family, because my thinking is they'll see that I called, or I will just text them. I don't typically leave a lot of voicemail messages. But if I'm calling someone that I don't know, that's not a friend, it's not in the inner circle, so to speak, then I will make sure to leave a voicemail message, because I want them to call me back. And there's nothing more frustrating than being, quote, in sales, and you're sending out stuff for a marketing campaign. People call you and you can't get to it right this minute because you're in the bathroom, or there's human reasons not to answer the phone right that second, and then they don't leave a voicemail. Or they leave a voicemail and you try to call them back, and evidently they were so excited that you called them back that they fainted because they don't answer. I know, we're all very fast-paced in today's world, but there's it's important to make sure that you leave voicemails and that you answer and return phone calls. And then just kind of understand, if you reach out to someone and they don't answer right then, they could be right in the middle of a project, and they will call you back. If it's me, I try to call back within 24 hours. If you call in the morning, I will call back by that afternoon. I kind of have schedules for things like that. I try to answer emails within one business day. However, if that means that if you email me on Saturday, you're not going to hear from me until Monday, because Saturday and Sunday is my time with my family. I do not ever have meetings on Saturdays and Sundays, because again, there's a certain amount of boundary that this is my kids' time. It's not work time. And even if when the kids grow up and they're not here anymore, it's my time to recharge my batteries, to go and do things that I want to do that aren't necessarily work revolved. Some of the upcoming shows this week, I said tomorrow we're going to talk about, excuse me, wow, that sounded awful, how to be a morning person if you're not, and that's kind of what I'm in the middle of working on. And I also want to talk about the importance of recreation. We call it recreation most of the time, but it's recreation. I am terrible about it. I tend to not ever want to take a break, but I do have a family vacation coming up that I am absolutely thrilled about. Taking my kids to Disneyland for the first time. So there's a lot to be said for taking weekends off, even if your weekend is Tuesday and Wednesday. To take that time off and really use it to rejuvenate yourself. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. So, and I've got personal development books coming in the mail, and that's always a challenge. That's always, they ask questions that I don't want to ask. I don't want to look inside myself for the answers. So that's going to be very challenging. And I'm kind of looking forward to it with a little bit of fear. So I'm going to call it good for tonight. Y'all have a great evening. Happy Monday. Have a wonderful Tuesday tomorrow, and I will talk to you tomorrow.